This hour, we have a new guest who's joining us. CPA Dr. ODUOL is the Deputy Governor of which county? Siaya County. We know him very well. He was in the news just the other day. Big news all over, headlines. Dr. ODUOL, karibu sana to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Asante sana. Thank you very much.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
On the other end of your tribulations.
Yes, glad to be on the other end.
Karibu. We hope that seat is comfortable.
It is.
It only cost us 140 bob.
Right. You can say that again. Interesting. Yeah. I hope that we will discuss that at some point.
Okay.
Yeah.
We will. City.
Yeah. Yes.
Give the Deputy Governor today's proverb.
Yes, our proverbs for the whole of this week, Your Excellency, from the country of Sudan, Northern Sudan, Khartoum, Sudan, not Juba, Sudan.
Khartoum, Northern, yes.
Northern, yes.
Yes.
Love for something makes a man blind and deaf.
Love for something makes a man blind and deaf.
Yes.
Say that again, City.
All right. I'm going to repeat this slowly.
Yes.
Love for something, not necessarily someone, makes a man blind and deaf.
Bwana DG, what do you think the Sudanese were saying with this proverb?
That's an interesting proverb. Love for something makes a man
blind and deaf.
blind.
Not blind or deaf. It's and both.
Yeah.
Blind and deaf.
Okay. I think if I interpret that proverb, it basically means that if you are passionate about something, then you'd go the full hog. You'd die for it. You would not care about the consequences, and you'd be prepared for the consequences.
Okay.
Yeah.
You'll be prepared
Yes.
to go blind, to go deaf.
Blind, you go deaf. You'd go in with your entire body.
Okay. Seems that's what you did.
And I believe this is testament to what I have gone through these past couple of months. Fighting corruption in this country is not for the faint-hearted. You must be prepared to face the consequences. In fact, they say impunity fights back. In my case, the hunter became the hunted,
Completely.
as it were.
The last time you were here,
Yes,
you came even with documents and you're telling us that you had unearthed
right,
some activities that made you uncomfortable in operations of the county government.
right.
And you had even taken this before the county assembly. No sooner had you said this
Submitted, yes.
than the county assembly also now began investigations into your own conduct.
Yes,
And it went all the way where a majority of members of the county assembly of Siaya voted to impeach you and remove you from office
yes.
because they said that you had abused your office. It was a complete opposite one against the other.
It's a paradox, to quite honestly. I mean, I look back and I worry for this country because good people are never celebrated. The assembly, in their own wisdom or lack of it, the 42 of them, you said majority, all of them. All of them voted to impeach me simply because I had challenged the status quo. And they came up with some vexatious and frivolous allegations against my person. One of the allegations was that I had used my office I actually had forced and coerced staff to renovate my office to the tune of 18 million. The other one was that I had interfered, and I will only talk about the ones that even the Senate's committee debated on. The other one was that I'd interfered with the procurement of fertilizers and seeds. And there was also another one that I had bullied the chief finance officer. Allegations that were all dismissed. In fact, the interesting one and was that in the renovation of my office at 18 million, part of that renovation included purchase of furniture. And one of that furniture was a seat that I was sitting on that had cost the company, the county rather, 1.1 million Kenyan shillings. Goodness gracious.
That's some chair.
That's quite some chair, right?
Yes.
1.1 million Kenyan shillings.
For a chair.
Oh my goodness.
How do you identify this chair?
First and foremost, I am not involved in procurement. I do not sign anywhere. I did not write any email. Neither did I even write. There was no communication from my end. All I said is that all I did was invite the chief officer, or rather the chief officer, the user department for governance, to come and look at my office because we had issues. The tiles were falling apart, the roof was leaking. It needed some repairs, including some furniture. I did not prescribe what kind of furniture they needed to bring to my office. I did not direct which supplier needed to supply, what price they needed to supply at.
You did not
I
allocate
was
a
not
budget?
involved in the procurement process. Remember, procurement is you advertise, you tender, then you go through evaluation,
And then you award.
then you award. Then, they start working and then they submit an invoice and then it is paid.
So you're saying that you're not denying that the chair cost 1.1 million. What you're saying is that it was not you who ordered for it.
Well, if you look at the chair that cost 1.1 million, really, honestly, it would be crazy.
You sat on that. You sat on that chair.
I've sat on that chair. It's
How
a
is it?
standard chair. If it should cost not more than 200,000, if you ask me. And
So there's nothing special about the chair.
nothing special.
But it cost
is
1.1
theft.
million.
If it cost 1.1 million, yes.
It did.
It did cost 1.1 million.
Nothing economic about it.
Nothing. It's
Doesn't
not a chair.
automatically start raising up after you've sat on it for too long.
No.
Nothing. It
Doesn't
does-
massage you.
No, it doesn't massage you.
Okay.
It's normal, ordinary chair.
Okay.
And I have written post the Senate. I have written to EACC to move with speed and investigate circumstances under which that chair, besides the 18 million renovation, circumstances under which that chair was procured and how it ended up costing 1.1 million and whether that was value for our money. Of course,
So-
it's not value for our money.
18 million was actually used for renovations.
So 18 million was used for renovation.
18 million was indicated as being used for renovation.
Yes.
No, he says it
It was used.
Indicated. That's
No.
actually that's the word.
You see, the
18 million shillings was spent.
Yes.
The documentation
Was-
regarding the
yes.
renovation was that 18 million shillings was used.
Yes.
Was
Yes.
spent.
Yes. Yes. And again, it's just normal, ordinary theft. This is theft, if you ask me.
Right.
And I am certain most of these characters are going to be apprehended once investigation is completed.
You detected very many things.
Yes.
In those initial days. You detected, for example, how Impress was being misused.
Yes.
How petty cash, what do you call that account?
Impressed.
The impressed account.
Yeah.
How it was being misused and money was just being
payroll, they were using payroll to siphon money. How are they diverting donor money into
other projects?
Impressed. And how during the Assumption of Office Committee, they spent withdrew 22 million, only spent 4 million. 18 million they stole.
During your swearing in?
Yes.
For both you and the governor?
Yes.
Okay. Had you detected this 18 million for renovations of your office?
No, I hadn't, because it happened. When did it happen? It happened
around the same time, I presume.
No. Remember when I started raising these issues, they started disengaging, and so towards January timeframe, because renovations happen in December. So I would have known between January and February. And during that time, most of the staff were no longer listening to me. Because remember, my relationship with governor had deteriorated. They would listen to me between when we joined in end of August through to end of November. December, January is when that relationship was now deteriorating. And I think most of those senior staff had instructions that they should not take directives from me. So I would
feed you information.
Yeah, so I would ask for documentation and I would not get, including even Impressed. One of the reasons why I was convinced that they were stealing is, yes, I could see abnormal withdrawals. And I could see that they were withdrawing 2, 5, 7, 8 times in a day.
Yeah.
And then I went further and I said, now I want to see these vouchers. You bring them to me. And they wouldn't bring them. And of course, I couldn't reprimand them because somehow they were getting instructions from elsewhere.
To do some of these things.
I
remember, Dr. ODUOL, when you were here.
Yes.
You were telling us of things that were happening even up to as recently as March.
Yes.
In terms of, these malpractices that you were detecting.
Right.
So if you're detecting malpractices in March, how are you unable to detect malpractice of the renovation within your office of 18 million shillings that was happening in December and January? So
by
April, May, you had not detected that the chair that you're sitting on had actually been procured for 1.2 million.
Yeah, the reason it was not easy for me to detect is because I was using IFMI statements. I'm an accountant by training, so if you give me an IFMI statement, I would be able to know that this payment has been made to XYZ. The reason I was not able to pick up my renovations for my office is because a supplier, even as we speak, has not been paid. So it didn't reflect in IFMI statement. So I would not have picked it up. Yeah.
What does the decision not to convict of impeachment then mean going forward? This all started because there's certain things that you flagged having gone on in the county.
Right.
Your severed relationship with the governor, or deteriorating relationship rather, not yet severed, right? What does it mean now going forward?
So, what it basically means, if you ask me, if I can answer it overall, what is important to the people of Siaya County is service to them, service delivery. We can swing this whichever way we want to swing it, but the most important and fundamental concern that we must address is how quickly can we put our hands on deck and serve the people of Siaya County. Because these people, for the last 4 months, during this protracted engagement, service has suffered.
But why would it suffer? Because all that was happening there was a disagreement that came into a public domain.
Right.
Are you saying the officers whose mandate is to ensure that service delivery actually happens stopped working? Are we saying that the Siaya county accounts were frozen. Are we saying that something that relates to the normal functions of the county stopped because there was this entanglement?
City, as it were, the pace of the pack is always determined by the leader. And if the two leaders that are supposed to be setting the pace and defining strategy and direction are fighting, service obviously gets impacted. Yes, there was some minimal, fair amount of service still being delivered. However, effective and efficient service delivery was indeed affected. So much so that in county governments, most of the staff are Theory X employees. They like being directed. They must, you must supervise them to work. They are not your typical consultant Theory Y employees. Yeah. So if they like
is this a requirement for you to be an employee in the county government, or is it something that is a tradition that has morphed so that it's now the being, it's what is considered to be the norm within county government?
It is the being, it's the norm. It's just a behavior that
but then when deputy governor, that then means it points a finger at the leadership, the political leadership of the county, because it means that if that is how the officers who work within the county behave, then it means it's demanded of them by those who are supposed to be their overseers and bosses to behave in such a manner, because that's how tradition is created.
Absolutely. I mean, really, it boils down to leadership, just like you put it. If you have firm, strong leadership, it then follows that even the team would work towards the achievement of particular goals and objectives. But City, just to follow up on what you are asking, the confusion at the top was very good for a good number of employees, because during that confusion, that's when they do some of these Mickey Mouse games. So that works for them, including even the assembly. They like it when this confusion at the executive.
There's something I have never really fully understood about, say, the workings of counties now. Admittedly, the employees within a county will be individuals who come from that county.
Yes.
But I get the impression, let me talk about Luo Nyanza, that I'm more familiar with, that depending on where the governor comes from, at a certain point in time, you'll find a good number of employees who are in key positions come from the governor's neck of the woods. Now, if that is the case, then it means that the deputy governor has little to no say in what actually happens in the county. The deputy governor in most cases is like a flower girl. You're there to be seen, but you actually have no powers.
And this, by the way, is an anomaly that needs to be cured in this country. Oftentimes, during campaigns, you find governors and deputy governors are bosom buddies. They are joined to the hip. They are very, very close. Once the two men and women are inaugurated and the governor assumes office, they then decide to elbow. In most cases, most of these deputies are suffering. It's just that they are not talking about it. But I think that is one area, City, that Parliament and the Senate needs to address. And the Senate, in dismissing my impeachment, one of the recommendations they came up with is that there is need to anchor the roles and the responsibilities of deputy governors under the Constitution, so that you are not at the mercy of the governor. Morality or good behavior or good manners cannot be legislated. That needs to be embedded in the County Governments Act or under the Constitution, so that deputy governors when you are inaugurated, you have your specific roles and responsibilities, you have your small little budget, and so you are able to run your affairs without necessarily depending on the governor.
Have you and the governor been in any communication since the case?
No, unfortunately not. I actually tried to reach out to him. Was it last week? Again, he did not pick up my... twice I called him. He didn't pick up my call. So we have not communicated. I have not gone back to Siaya, but I am going back to Siaya this week. So I hope that we would be able to meet and agree on the way forward. Mine is a conciliatory approach. Where mediation fails, because you see, mediation now is engagement between two parties. Yeah. But conciliation involves many other parties, the churches, the elders, and the leaders. I am hoping that through conciliation, we would be able to address, because our differences were never personal. I have said here before that they were ideological.
It's ideological.
Mine was issues to do with governance and how we wanted to steer the county forward. And I have been vindicated. I talked about theft through interest. Senate agreed with me. And the Minister for Finance, you invited him here, Benedict Omolo, and indeed he confirmed that they were making the huge withdrawals until February. Remember, February is when I started making noise. That February, they only withdrew 3.1 million.
They only withdrew?
They withdrew 3.1 million only. Yeah, they withdrew 3.1 million only.
This is compared to
previously.
Remember, previously they were withdrawing 26 million November, 21 million December, so not for the 26, 46 million November, 41 million December, 25 million January.
3 million February.
Then I made noise. Then 3.1 million February, 2.5 million March, and then, in Benedict's words, they froze interest in the month of April altogether. So what was going on? Why were they withdrawing 46 million in the months of November, December? Where was the emergency?
CPA Dr. William Oduol is our guest this morning. He is the Deputy Governor of Siaya County. Faced impeachment from the County Assembly. That was rejected by the Senate, so he's still the Deputy Governor. We are talking about, so now what next? After that entire debacle, what next in terms of delivering to the people of Siaya? And what should happen to this office of Deputy Governor even going forward? Have you tried to use emissaries to reach out to the governor and say, I'd like us to talk?
So I've reached out to the Luo Council of Elders, Siaya branch. I am also in discussion with some church leaders. And my glass is always half full, Eric. I believe that we will find a resolution to this.
What response have you gotten so far from those that you've sent to him?
I only spoke with the Luo Council of Elders early this week, and the chairman did mention that he was going to reach out to governor. So I want to give it time and hope that reason is going to prevail, because at the end of the day, like I keep saying, it's service. The people of Siaya County. I am Deputy Governor. I am elected. I'm not appointed.
Are you receiving a salary?
Yes, sir. I am.
On time? Like everybody else?
Like everybody else.
Did they reinstate the services that they had withdrawn?
No, the privileges.
There was security and was it vehicles?
Fuel, they haven't.
So what aren't you enjoying now? What are you not enjoying?
The security was withdrawn. The utility car that I was using was withdrawn. The fuel, even my official car, the one that I'm using currently, that they are not fueling. My allowances, they are not paying me, including even the staff that work for me in my office. They are not being paid their allowances. So But that's okay. I mean,
How is it okay?
How is it okay? When you raise this matter, if you have, what have they said are the reasons as to why this is not being paid? Because I don't believe it's the governor himself who signs off on these payments for you. There's an office, isn't it? The finance. What are the reasons they give as to why these allowances and others are not being paid?
You know, the beauty of it is that how whichever way this goes and however long it takes, they will still pay it.
You're owed.
They owe. In fact, they may even pay with the damages because it's a right. So it's cosmetic irritation, little inconvenience, and I was prepared for this, because if you are fighting impunity, sometimes they try to put roadblocks, and I see those are some of the roadblocks. I still want to believe, you see, the buck stops with the governor.
Yeah.
If the governor wants my allowances paid today, they would be paid yesterday. If he wants, because before I started making noise, I would get fuel religiously. My allowances would be paid religiously. It's only after I started talking about corruption and insisting that things need to be done in a particular manner that suddenly Share does not have fuel in gas stations, and only for my car.
So you're saying essentially that if you were to then put a muzzle on this corruption talk,
right,
your allowances and other emoluments would come back?
They would come back almost immediately. I am very certain.
You know what I hear you to be saying about a deputy governor is that
Yes.
in SIA you do not have internal mechanisms set up or instituted to resolve issues such as this one. Because indeed, if there is something, you are the deputy governor after all, you deputize for the governor. If something is wrong within the county system,
Right.
it is clear that the reporting mechanism, the resolution mechanism, a mechanism that is set up to ensure that these matters are resolved, not just amicably but conclusively, does not exist.
No, it's just impunity, City. I will. Perhaps I need to let you know this. When all this started, I took initiative and wrote a letter to the county secretary and copied governor and copied the speaker of the county assembly and copied the chairman of governance committee, county assembly of Siaya.
There's a governance committee.
Yes, governance committee of county assembly of Siaya. I expected the governance committee at the minimum to summon the officers, ask them why they have withdrawn my security, why they are not giving me, providing fuel to my vehicles. They haven't done nothing. So what does that tell you?
What's the process of getting fuel? Do you make a claim?
So
Are you paid in arrears or are you paid in advance?
So I will tell you, before I started making noise, it was seamless. My driver or my assistant would get fuel. I didn't even get to know about it. For 4 months, 3 months, when I was in Siaya, it was never an issue. It never even came to my attention.
Yeah, but what's
that
the
would
process?
That would be handled by my assistant, my driver. If
Is
the
your driver
is-
telling you that they're
if-
following the same process?
Yes.
Which is probably making a claim, going in that book and showing the deputy governor left here and went for a meeting here, and therefore we traveled 15 kilometers here. This is the mileage, and therefore we are
Yes.
saying we need fuel to
Yes.
cover this mileage. Is your driver, your assistant, are they still doing that?
Same process.
What
that they
meetings
used
are you
to-
attending?
They are following the same process that they used to follow, but they're not getting fuel.
But what meetings are you attending? You haven't had any official meeting to attend since you started being sidelined.
No. I was I was holding and attending meetings until late May. They stopped giving me fuel in February. So it's just impunity. They've just decided that, okay, you think that you want to stop us from
Doing what we do.
doing what we do. Let's see who makes the final call.
But then it tells me, if I am to take the logic that you are putting across, Deputy Governor,
Right.
that this isn't a situation that began when you and James Orengo came to power. No. Because you didn't come with a civil service of your own.
No.
You found them there.
We found them there.
No, so if you found them there, then this points to something that was happening long before you got there. So essentially when you say you are disturbing the status quo, because that seems to be it, this is a status quo that had been benefiting very many people prior to your going there.
Yes.
Now, when we institutionalize the term corruption fights back and grand corruption fights back grandly, you seem to have not just gotten at crosshairs with this matter, but you have gotten right into the center of it. Now, my question, with all the government agencies that deal with corruption still in place, they have not left their docket. Have you made attempts to, or did you make attempts after the attempts you had made initially within the county government of Siaya, when it did not bear fruit? Did you go out to other state agencies that deal with such matters and report these matters to them? And if you did, what was their response?
So I want to report, and I am happy, even as a report, that after the assembly of Siaya refused to afford me the opportunity to go and explain, and preferred impeachment against me, I decided to forward my evidence to EACC. And I'm happy to report that EACC, for the last 3 weeks, 1 month, have been camped in Siaya. I know that we are going to have arrests very, very soon. They have camped in Siaya. They are looking at previous corruption, 600 million that was stolen, the 400 million that was stolen before our time, and they are also looking at current graft.
Wouldn't you say the amounts were misappropriated because the EAC have not determined how it is that money didn't go, it was supposed to be? So if we say stolen, it's like saying a court of law had looked at this thing and said, this money actually didn't get lost, it was stolen. Let's say it was misappropriated.
Misappropriated.
Yes.
I stand guided on that one.
Yes.
With intent to steal.
Yeah. With misappropriated, with intent to steal. That's a good one. So ESCC are looking at both current graft and current graft. I have been fairly specific. I've talked about the assumption of office, the 18 million that was stolen, and the payroll theft, 5.4 million and 2.1 million. The imprest, the over 100 million that was misappropriated in 3 months. That's to use city's word. Misappropriated. So ESCC is camped in Siaya. They are taking statements, and all I can encourage on this medium is that they need to expeditiously carry out that investigation, because the whole republic is watching, and the people of Siaya deserve justice.
But Deputy Governor, if what you say is happening exactly as you did,
Yes.
and if we take the allegation that you somehow interrupted and disturbed the status quo, then from where I sit, it looks like this reconciliation is going to be a very tall order.
So, City,
Yes.
I am hoping that we can reconcile with Governor Orengo. But if we do not reconcile with Governor Orengo, I want to tell the people of Siaya, including the leadership, that some of whom think I'm going to resign. I am not resigning from that seat. They must get used to William ODUOL, the deputy governor, for the next 4 years. Why am I not resigning? If I resign, these characters are going to be emboldened. They are going to steal even more. The fact that I am there, they are scared, very scared. If there's misappropriation, there's some fair amount of deterrence. I am told today in finance that impressed. That petty cash that they used to sign without
willy-nilly.
Yes, willy-nilly. To get anybody to now put their signature on a piece of paper in finance is very difficult.
Okay. And so you would attribute that to your action previously.
Yes.
So what is your plan now moving forward? We know that, and also as a deputy governor who then sits in a position of assistance to the governor,
right,
as well as now this also position that you've taken of making sure that things are squeaky clean in the county. What's your plan moving forward?
So my plan is to ensuring that we fulfill what we said we want to fulfill. The 9 points agenda. That manifesto that we talked about, we still have to deliver medicine in health centers and clinics. Food security, issues of food security, we must make sure that bright, deserving students and pupils go to school through bursaries. We must ensure, and of course with the help of people like companies like Colgate, make sure that we have water across Share County and all the rest of the other imperatives that we talked about.
And can you do that with the strained relationship?
Yes, we can do that.
Okay.
And how I want to participate in this is I want to hold my government accountable. I want to ensure good governance.
You want to be the opposition within.
Exactly. I want to ensure that there is transparency and accountability. How am I going to do it? I want to create work for myself by ensuring that I become the county delivery unit. How does that work? Remember, we have projects that we execute on, whether they are dams, whether they are ponds, whether they are markets that we are building. I want to create work for myself. When I go back to Siaya, I want to periodically go to those markets, go to those centers and establish that what we said we are going to do, we actually did. You know, in certain instances, we have been faced by situations where you're paying for services not delivered or not rendered. So I want to be that individual that is going to help the governor and the county in ensuring that services are delivered at the right quality.
What's on paper is what's on the ground.
What's on paper is what's on the ground.
So you're going to play that entire role?
I want to play that role. I want to create, because you see, if governor is not going to delegate work for me, I might as well just create work for myself.
Some work for yourself.
And I think this is one area that would help the people of Siaya.
Where will you be taking your reports? So once you look, I'm sure you're going to be looking at the annual development plans that form the budget and the areas where money has been appropriated in the budget. And then going to see, so 20 million shillings was appropriated for Market X. You go to Market X and you find the work and you inspect whether this is work worth 20 million shillings. You put it in your report which says yes, no, questionable. Who do you take this report to?
So, County Assembly of Siaya, that is the body responsible for oversight, especially if I see anomalies. I would do exactly what I have been doing. The people, the electorates, if I think that, you see, for example, a road was supposed to be compacted, because in most cases, take for example a road. They say we want this road marramed and compacted. In certain cases, they don't compact. So if a situation such as that occurs, I would need to pick it up with the responsible department, the Department of Public Works, Roads and Housing, and ensure that the people get the services that they deserve and what is specified in the tender documents.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You belong to the County Deputy Governors Forum.
Yes.
Or is it caucus?
Right.
Now, you've told us here in passing that you know of other deputy governors who may not be speaking publicly, but they are facing similar frustrations, such as yourself.
Yes.
What do you think ought to happen so that we no longer have these conversations about deputy governors and governors being at loggerheads constantly?
So, two things need to happen. The worst case scenario is disband this position of deputy governor altogether. Let governors run as governors without their deputies, and let electorates elect them in their own individual capacities.
Okay.
That's
Worst case.
Worst case. Best case, anchor the role of the role and responsibilities of deputy governors onto the Constitution or on the County Government's Act. So that deputy governors have specific roles and responsibilities. Deputy governors have budgets within their departments.
Yeah. How does this help?
And let me just explain to you. Remember earlier on I said you cannot legislate morality. It depends with the individual. Anwaiguru in Kirinyaga, the deputy governor for Anwaiguru, all the cabinet CECMs, the ministers, report into the deputy governor, and that works very well. The governor for Mombasa, His Excellency Abdul Somad, has given his deputy 3 ministries to run because he recognizes that, he's just one individual. He cannot manage all the 10 ministries. Kangata in Muranga has given his deputy 3 ministries, including even a chief officer in the office of the deputy governor. Excellency Wanga in Homa Bay has given her deputy a ministry to run. He's minister for agriculture besides being a deputy governor. So what am I saying? It depends with the governor. You do not need to legislate for a governor to work well with their deputies. It depends with the individual. But because you cannot legislate good manners or morals, let's anchor it onto the Constitution.
Put it in the law.
Put it in the law.
That a deputy governor will come into office, they'll have an office, they'll have a budget, they'll have a department.
A department.
Thereby creating 2 centers of power.
Not necessarily. You see, if you have roles and responsibilities, it does not mean that those roles and responsibilities usurp the powers of the governor. Those roles and responsibilities can be under the governor. They do not need to usurp the powers of the governor. Yeah. I am not even suggesting that ministers need to report to the deputy governor. No. Look at the current structure of national government. His Excellency the President has assigned roles and responsibilities to his deputy and the Prime Cabinet Secretary.
And they both report to him.
It is not anchored in law. It just requires good manners.
Goodwill.
And goodwill. Yeah. So
So you're saying you're going back to Siaya this weekend.
Yes.
And you are seeking conciliation as a way of mending fences with the governor.
Yes.
And if this does not work, then you will form this public watchdog office.
Yes.
Dr. William ODUOL, Deputy Governor, Public Watchdog, but you will not resign.
I am not resigning because I want to protect the people of Siaya. I want to ensure that the service that we promised that we were going to deliver to them is delivered. The only way to deliver that is to ensure that we put government in check. And I promise to do exactly that.
And the county assembly? Do you want to mend fences with the county assembly?
I would like
because
to.
Because clearly, not a single one of them has confidence in you.
You see, that's the irony. Not a single one of them has confidence in me. I would like to mend fences with the county assembly, but they must step up to the plate. There cannot be They cannot be accompanying a governor to funerals and functions, singing and dancing to his tunes.
Why not?
They are supposed to oversight executive.
That's probably how they understand oversight to be.
No. You see,
how do you oversight unless you accompany?
Unless you sing.
To be there to see what's happening.
No.
Yes.
The assembly's role is threefold: it's legislation, representation, and oversight.
Not accompanying.
Not going with governor to funerals and dancing.
So your
and
message
singing.
to them is step up to the plate.
Step up to the plate.
Do your
let's
job.
work together. Do your job, and let's make Siaya great again.
Asante sana. You and Governor James Orengo said Nyalore. The
Yes.
people of Siaya are still expecting to see ikiwezekana. Thank you very much, DG, for joining us.
Thank you very
CPA
much.
Dr. William ODUOL,
Very.
Deputy Governor, Siaya County.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.